Now, for time eternal, media houses have been reporting on wars, famine and other global issues. But right now, the world's eyes are glued on Ukraine. Wits University Media Studies professor, that's Glenda Daniels, joins me now to unpack how the media has fared in reporting on the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. Prof, good to have you, and thank you so much for your time. And that's the question that everyone is keen to hear your views on. How do you think the media, the South African media particularly, has fared in the coverage of the Ukraine-Russia conflict?
Thanks for having me, Tumelo. The media is not one, as in when you say the South African media, you mean one media. So we have television, we have radio, we have online, there's social media, and everyone's covered it in a variety of different ways. It's a highly covered news item. It's often number one. Often what I've seen is the fact that it's set up as two equal sides. You know, on the one hand, the Ukraine government is saying this, and on the other hand, it's Russia, whereas in fact it is an invasion. It's a war on the part of Russia. So what I have wanted to hear more of has been the analysis part of what exactly is happening, the history, coming from the issues of Belarus and the issues of Chechnya and the issues of Crimea and Georgia and what's happening now, the history of Ukraine itself, and how this has happened and where Putin's going to go with this, and the whole issue of NATO's stance, etc. So, in fact, there's been a very good coverage, all in all. What I find a bit overdone is it is terrible, the humanitarian crisis. It's absolutely awful, but it's actually quite traumatic to be watching the blood of children on TV and so forth. You have to have some of it, but it's been, in many ways, I found it's a bit traumatic and overkill.
Yeah, look, I want to ask you this. Some media houses have called it the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Some have termed it the Russia-Ukraine invasion. Some have termed it the Russia-Ukraine war. Have you found either words problematic? What should we be calling it? Or is that what makes the media so diverse, that given the different perspective and coverage, then we could be seeing these different ways of describing what's happening in Russia-Ukraine?
Yes, certainly the words, Tumelo, make a difference to how people are viewing it. For example, if you call it the Ukraine-Russian conflict, you are setting both sides up as equals in a war. If you're calling it the Russian war, you're actually calling it a war that is. It is a war, number one, because it's it's dropping bombs on a city. It's killing residential citizenry, ordinary innocent people and children and hospitals and so forth. So the words one uses, they're very, very important. So if I was a reporter right now or a host, a TV host, I would certainly be saying the Russian war, the Russian invasion, because that is exactly what it is.
Right. The comparison in terms of coverage between the wars that we have identified, seen, witnessed, covered in Africa to what we're currently seeing in Russia, Ukraine have been, analyzed extensively. Some even saying there seems to be more bias towards, Ukraine and Russia coverage as opposed to, the more Africa conflicts and wars we've seen. What's your view on that, Professor?
So I think that's true. I think certainly, if we're honest, there's more coverage of the Ukraine invasion, the Russian invasion of Ukraine than we've seen of what's happened in Sudan, what's happened in Somalia, Afghanistan, and so forth. That's certainly true. It's almost like people have become inured to suffering in Africa and to seeing these images of war and strife in Africa. So they block it out and then nobody wants to watch it. That's my perception. I haven't done analysis. I haven't done research on this. That's one issue. And the other issue that, when you say that to people, they would point out to you that with this particular war, we actually we could well be on the brink of a third world war because of the nuclear threat. Hence, this is more important. That's what I've heard from the other side of the story. And there's truth in both of what I've said.
All right, we'll leave it then. I appreciate you, of course, giving us both sides to consider when it comes to the media coverage with what's happening in Ukraine, Russia. Professor Glenda Daniels from Wits University's Media Studies Department, thank you so much for your time.